Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my colleague from Florida, Mr. DeSantis, may have asked this question, Mr. Krebs, but did Russia determine the outcome of our election?
Sir, based on the cybersecurity technical hacking aspects of state and local election officials, we don't have any information that suggests they had access to vote tallying and therefore any ability to technically change votes.
One of the ways to influence the outcome of an election is not necessarily the vote tally on the day of the election, but voter registration. Is that accurate? It could be.
Well, so if I can understand your question, you're asking if we can influence votes by disrupting voter registration processes?
Or manipulating the voter registration to register people who are not eligible to vote.
So coming at it from the angle of disrupting the registered voters and their ability to vote, we've already talked a little bit about the resilience of the system. But in terms of adding additional people to the vote, I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, my point is this, is that there are more than one way to influence the outcome of an election. We saw this in 2008 and 2010 with a group called ACORN in their voter registration efforts in Nevada and Colorado and Florida and other places where they were registering people. There was in Indiana 2,100 voter registration forms that were invalidated because they were all filled out by the same person. There was another 5,000 that were set aside because of that. You had a lady who was leading the 2010 effort in Nevada, Project Vote program for ACORN, who was under indictment, Amy Busafink. Then you had a situation in Colorado where they pressured the Colorado agencies that deal with people who are on public assistance, and their fraudulent registration rate was 4 times the national average. So there are other ways to influence the outcome of an election other than trying or attempting to manipulate the vote total on Election Day. Is that a fair assessment?
Sir, I don't have experience in that side of the vote process. I'd have to defer to the election officials at the table.
Anyone want to respond to that, Mr. Hatch?
Yeah, there will always be attempts to meddle in elections, whether that be through a cybersecurity attack or through influencing social media or through trying to get additional people to register to vote. As an election official, as a local election official, I have to focus on the things that I can control and the things that are within my domain. And so we recognize that there are all sorts of influence out there, and there will be always. What we do is we make sure that the public is confident in the election process itself, and we do that by outreach to candidates, parties,
Do you have
voters.
a responsibility to protect our election process from all threats, both foreign and domestic?
Absolutely.
Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to enter to the record, Mr. Chairman, a report from Capital Research Center on what happened with ACORN, just as a reminder that when we talk about protecting our elections, we're not talking about just protecting them from foreign influence, but also from domestic influence, and it's critical. I agree with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle that it's absolutely critical that people have confidence that the vote count is accurate, it reflects the will of the people, and it hasn't been manipulated. So when we talk about that, I hope that every state is taking this seriously, that's not just making sure that we're protected from foreign influence, but also from domestic attempts by any group from any side of the aisle that would try to influence the outcome of an election. And is that part of what we're doing here? You're nodding your head, Ms. Toulouse-Oliver?
Absolutely, and I think the examples that you just gave with regard to ACORN, we had similar situations happen when I was a county clerk in New Mexico. Found questionable voter registrations, referred them to law enforcement as appropriate, and I think that goes to what we've been talking about all along, which is that we have to not only try to protect our systems, but we can never have a 100% secure system. So it's also important to remember that our systems are resilient. And so identifying, finding, rejecting fake registrations, being able to identify if fake registrations were to come in through an online portal as well. That's all part of what we are doing. And absolutely, it doesn't matter who is trying to interfere with our elections, foreign or domestic. That's what we are all focused on.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the response of the witnesses, and I just would like to say that each one of us are outraged that Russians made an attempt, but we should be equally outraged when anyone makes an attempt to deny the American public their hard fought for and well-defended right to elect for themselves the representatives that they want. I yield back.